Yeah, and a bird that channels. Sinister grifters with a snake oil grin, voracious virtue signalers cashing in. False PIs, they're fixing the game, pointing fingers, but they're all the same. Innocent creators, moms with a cause, digging through the chaos, exposing the flaws. We're hunting for clues, untwisting the lies. Who's driving this shit show straight to demise? Convertibles roaring, cliffs in sight, like Thelma and Louise on a forever ride. They sail into YouTube fame, the crash is in sight. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Or it'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust. Spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust. It's in the dust. That'll burn their channels. It's in the dust. That'll burn their channels. What's in the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust. Yeah, and a bird that channels. It's in the gust. It's in the gust. Sinister grifters with a snake oil grin, voracious virtue signalers cashing in. False PIs, they're fixing the game, pointing fingers, but they're all the same. Innocent creators, moms with a cause, digging through the chaos, exposing the flaws. We're hunting for clues, untwisting the lies. Who's driving this shit show straight to demise? Convertibles roaring, cliffs in sight, like Thelma and Louise on a forever ride. They sail into YouTube fame, the crash is in sight. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Or it'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust. Spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust. It's in the dust. That'll burn their channels. It's in the dust. That'll burn their channels. What's in the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust.
Well, I'm sitting in my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight.
Good morning,
From the darkest
people.
corner, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named Barry. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need.
All right, folks. I hope you guys are doing well this morning.
Twisted minds.
Try to get this music under control. All right, here we go. Good to see you guys. I hope that everybody had an amazing weekend. I did. I was traveling, and I'm so happy to be where I am. And I hope that you are having the same delightful experience. All right, so I'm going to jump right in because I don't want to be on here long today. And it seems like every time I say that, that's when we do a 4 or 5 hour live. We're not doing that today. We are jumping right in. First thing I want to say, in a recent live, Christopher Proudfoot used the statement, it was they tell a Jenga of lies. And because I'm an inquisitive sort, I said, what the hell is a Jenga, right? Like, if you've heard that term before, a Jenga of lies, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat, because I myself had never, ever heard that comment. And some people say, well, maybe they mean like a Jenga, the game. I don't know. So I went in search of information. All right. So this morning we're going to have a little bit of school. And I myself am quite impressed that Mr. Proudfoot has such a depth of knowledge that he was able to come up with a term like Jenga that has multiple meanings dependent upon the context, language, or culture in which one may live. In Swahili, Jenga means calamity. Now, come on, Christopher, tell the truth. Tell the people the truth. Did you get a thesaurus? I just want to know, because Jenga seems to be the perfect word for the online brouhaha that surrounds the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers. I hesitate to call it the case of Sebastian Rogers, even though there's an investigation. We don't yet have an arrest, so I'm a little bit hesitant about using the word case. But the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers is a nightmare, but the nonsense online, once the drama community got interested in this case, when the drama community got interested in this case, it went to hell in a handbasket, truly. And so now we are, in fact, dealing with a Jenga. I'm not sure how to use it either. It means calamity, disaster, or crisis. So I don't think you would say a Jenga of lies, a calamity of lies, a crisis of lies? I'm not sure if that's accurate. I would think you would call something a Jenga, like you would say something is a brouhaha or a fight, right? Isn't that kind of what Jenga? But maybe not. I mean, Mr. Proudfoot, this is his word. He knows how to use it, apparently. I had never heard of it. It says, for example, Kuna Jenga la Nija. Do y'all think Christopher Proudfoot says that? Kuna Jenga la Nija. There is a hunger crisis. Maybe. He does seem to have been very hungry lately. All right. So in Swahili, Jenga means calamity, disaster, or crisis. And that absolutely applies to what has happened since Sebastian Rogers has gone missing. But that's not how he was using the word. He was using the word that the online disaster, the drama community covering the disappearance and all that has happened since then. Also, the Jamaican patois. In the Jamaican patois, Jenga refers to small freshwater crawfish, if you're from Louisiana, or crayfish, if you're from up north. Get a rope. No, I'm kidding. Okay. So a Jenga is a small freshwater crawfish or shrimp, a popular delicacy in Jamaican cuisine. For instance, we catch enough Jenga in the river means we caught a lot of crawfish down in the river. We catch crawfish in the fishing hole where I'm from. African name. As a name of African origin, Jenga is a gender neutral and it often means warrior or brave. And I believe that Seth Rogers has been Jenga. It symbolizes strength, courage, and resilience in various African cultures. Geographical or cultural references, Jenga also appears in place of names. Janga, a mountain in the Caucasus Range or a district in Brazil, or used as a surname in some regions. Other informal uses in slang context. I got to be careful because the Urban Dictionary's got some pretty nasty, let's see, used to mean various things. Oh, yeah. So Janga can be marijuana or promiscuous person. These are less formal and more widely recognized. Weird, right? I guess I'm running in the wrong group. I don't run with prostitutes and I don't hang out with drug addicts. So I've never heard that term, Janga. Weird, right? So thank you, Christopher Proudfoot, for providing us the word of the day. All right. So what do you think? Did you guys enjoy that? It's a little bit of something. True Crime with Sweet Melissa. Thank you so much. You are a sweetheart, and I definitely appreciate your interest in the channel. Thank you for being a supporter. And let's move on because I'm trying to get out the door and go hang out with my grandbaby today. All right, now then, the next thing. Here we go. So the topic today. Let me see if I wanted to do this other. Yeah, I think I will go ahead and cover this. All right, so let me share this. I'm sharing my screen. Just one moment. All right, let's take a listen here.
Baby, I can't hear you. You better unmute. You're muted up, Cheesy.
Come on,
guys.
Hey, what are you doing, babe?
It just amazes. I missed everybody. I'm so happy to be back. It just amazes me that they just completely and totally forget all the crap that Seth has said.
Yeah,
that he's done.
Yeah.
It just amazes me that they
Isn't that
don't even
strange?
question that at all. And all Chris is
Well, to be fair, Cheesy Wheezy, I'm not sure what you're referring to, actually. If you are referring to what Katie Proudfoot wrote about Seth during their divorce, if that is what you are referring to, you've got to realize that wasn't a police report where there had been an investigation. That was her telling her side of a marriage that was in deterioration. And so, unfortunately, people behave badly during breakups and divorces. Maybe he was aggressive. Maybe he did get kicked off of the base. Whether he was angry about an affair with Christopher Proudfoot or somebody else, or whether he was angry about being divorced and not being able to live in the same house with his son, whether he became overwhelmed and he lashed out at Sebastian. I don't pretend to know what happened, but I do know that divorces, infidelity, affairs, they create incredibly dangerous situations. People have a way of losing their minds when their spouse, their trusted person, takes steps to destroy the family. So I'm not excusing that. And if he was violent, if he did do these things, he should have been brought up on charges. 100%. I will agree with that. The problem is that Christopher and Katie each have made multiple statements saying what a good dad Seth is, that he took seriously his time with Sebastian. And in fact, he moved across the country in order to be with his child. So I know a lot of parents that go through divorce and then they spend $100,000 in the court system fighting to stop the other parent from taking the child out of the state, right? I know those situations well. It is a rare thing when a parent will pack up and move and follow the ex-wife or the ex-husband to the new state so that they can continue their visitation. So what you look at as a negative thing, I look at as another positive for Seth. He seems to have made Sebastian number one. And then they'll say, oh, but he left him when he was at work. Okay, what'd you want him to do? You guys complain about Seth working, and you guys complain about Seth not working. And what I really think is going on here is that your marching orders from SF Investigates and Christopher Proudfoot, your marching orders as drama channels was slander anyone who is being positive about Seth Rogers. We don't want people being influenced in a positive way by Seth. That's what you guys have been doing. And you're not very good at it. You think you're good at it, but you're actually quite poor. And perhaps Christopher Proudfoot and SF Investigates, they know how to conduct psychological warfare. They know how to use those tools and tactics and techniques. But if their tools that they're trying to, the people that they're trying to get to put out their messaging, if they're not very sophisticated, if they don't understand the goal of what they're doing, it's quite easy to spot the tools. So you guys have been told, you think you like Christopher Proudfoot because when he comes around, he's charming, and you think, oh, look at this nice guy. He's gotten a bad rap. The reality is he's targeted you guys. He doesn't believe that you're on his level, not by a long shot. And he's manipulating you to do his bidding. You've been turned into tools, essentially. And that doesn't mean that, that doesn't reflect well on Christopher Proudfoot in terms of his character.
Said that he hit Sebastian one time with a belt. That's all we know about.
Yeah. Yep.
And we don't even know if, okay, maybe he did smack him with a belt. Whether you agree with it or not, whatever, that's up to you.
Right.
But how do we know Katie?
Who wants to bet Cheesy Weezy hit her kids a lot and often? When I hear this, hey, whether you spank with a belt or not, that's your business as a parent. Do you have the same opinion if perhaps the issue is whether it's appropriate for a husband to spank a wife with a belt? How are you feeling about that exactly? Because I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that Queen Bee or Jizz for Justice or any others in this community, Granny's watching, I'm going to be willing to bet that the first time their mate said, I got an idea. The next time you get out of line, little lady, I'm just going to get my belt out. And we're just going to fix that. And I'm going to teach you how to behave when you're around me. What do you guys think? Do you think that will be just a question left up to the men? Whether it's okay to spank the wives with a belt? Or do you think that is a topic that society should have an opinion on? Okay, no, you don't hit your wife or your husband with anything, but especially a weapon, in order to cause them to behave properly. Okay? If your husband or your wife goes out and has an affair, it is not okay to pick up a belt and start beating them with it. Period. You're going to go to prison if you do that. So my contention is, if it's not okay for adults to take a strap after each other, why are we as a society approving taking a strap to a kid? Why? Do you believe, if you're an advocate for spanking with a belt, that is the same thing as saying, I'm at the end of my rope. I'm out of ideas. I have lost the ability to manage or control my children. You're basically saying that your kids are smarter and more powerful than you are when you take a belt out and start beating them. So be very careful about what it is that you're advocating for, because we have had historically a period in time where human beings were beaten with belts, 1 lick, 20 licks, 50 licks, depending on how bad the behavior was. If you tried to run away from the plantation, you'd get 100 straps. You'd get 100 licks with that belt. But if all you did was, didn't say, yes, sir, then maybe you only get 5 licks. Is that really what you want to advocate for? Because children have this wonderful, miraculous thing about them. They want to please you. Like they're born, they come into the world attached with a parent, to the point that they don't realize that they're not literally a body part of the parent. They don't begin to recognize that they're independent from the parent until about 3 years of age. Up until that point, they believe that they're part of that other person, right? So they come into the world loving you, the parent, in the same way that they love themselves, needing your survival as much as they need their own self-preservation. They want to please. That's all they want to do, until someone screws that up, until a parent is angry or makes fun of them, makes them ashamed, refuses to listen to them, fails to provide them enriching experiences in life. Until the parent screws up the relationship, that little kid only wants to make you happy. The very best way of controlling a kid who's bad and out of control, tell them what a good job they did. Find something about them that you can authentically, not lie to them, but authentically say to them, wow, that is amazing. You did such a good job. Even a kid picking up his plate from the table and bringing it to you, you don't have to fall down on your knees and worship and say, oh, holy child, thank you. You're such a great person for bringing me your dirty plate. No, none of that nonsense. But a kid who brings the plate to you and you turn around and look them straight in the eye and say, thank you so much for helping. That's all you need to do. You know what happens after that one day, that magic moment? Thank you for helping. You know what happens? That day forward, that child will pick up and bring their dirty plate to the sink or the dishwasher, not just once, but every day from now on. As long as they perceive mom or dad to be happy, they will bring that plate. That's all it takes. I'm telling you the truth. Kids that get ignored, kids who have parents that don't look at them in the eye, parents who only complain about what they're doing wrong, who fail to tell the kid what they're doing right, well, those kids are going to find a way to get you to look at them. And if it means misbehaving, that's what they'll do. So when you begin to advocate for spare the rod, spoil the child, all I'm going to say is you're a person that you were hit when you were little. And you don't know any other way to do it. I heard another creator, I'm not going to say his name, but I heard another creator one night say, my mom used to beat me, or I don't think he said beat, I think he said hit. My mom used to hit me with wooden spoons. She even broke a few, and I'm all right. And that point is under debate. Don't hit your kids. Don't hit your kids. Learn about children, what makes them tick. Go find a good child psychologist. Ask about the developmental stage your child is in and what type of developmental mastery they're working on. And then learn to say kind words to them. And you won't need to hit your kid.
Joyce, yeah.
How do we know when he did it, Katie didn't say, nope, not going to be doing that with my kid. And he never did it again.
All right, that's the part I wanted you to hear. Let me go back a little since I was talking so long to remind us. All right, this is the part I want you to hear.
Whether you agree with it or not, whatever, that's up to you.
Right.
But
that's
how do we know,
your
Katie?
business, your choice. Yeah.
How do we know when he did it, Katie didn't say, nope, not going to be doing that with my kid. And he never did it again. Is that so far-fetched that she might have said, hey, whoa, you're crossing a line. Don't ever do that to my kid again. And it never happened again. Is that so far beyond the realm that of possibility? You know? No, they just think he just continuously beat Sebastian.
Well, yeah, they can't. I was gonna say because if they say yes, they can't hate Chris. I mean, that's their
right
way to hate Chris and Katie. You know what I mean?
All right. Cheesy Wheezy. I can't believe it. You're a moment of inspiration, Cheesy Wheezy. And I have historically given you a little bit of a tough time. She asked a great question. Don't you think? If you think that was a great question, put a 1 in the chat. I thought it was a brilliant question. She brought up a question that I'm ashamed that I didn't think of, okay? I'm ashamed of that. I should have been on my channel asking this question for a year, and I didn't. I was just like everybody else focused on Chris Proudfoot's shocking and aggressive behavior, which is a huge red flag when you have a missing teenager, right? And I never thought about this, and I should have. And perhaps if Mr. Proudfoot wasn't so outrageous, perhaps it would have stuck in my mind. But admittedly, two things. I've been careful not to be judgmental against Katie because that's the mom, and I have some suspicions about the house. And the second is that, Christopher Proudfoot's just an outrageous individual, and he demands attention without even knowing. I don't even think he realizes how dramatic he is, right? But this question that Cheesy Wheezy asked, which is so important in my opinion, I messed up not thinking it. Has anyone thought that Katie said to Christopher, you're not going to hit my child. Stop. You are out of line. You're not allowed to discipline my son. He has a father who wants to be involved, and that is not your role to hit my kid. Did any of you wonder that? I'm just curious. Ebony, thank you, Ebony. The voice of reason enters the room. Ebony says, well, number one, except we've already heard of 2 instances of Christopher hitting Sebastian. And there's an awful lot of CPS reports, don't you think, Ebony? Not only the lies he's told about did he hit Sebastian once or did he hit Sebastian twice or whatever. CPS reports are not just happening magically. There had to have been reasons for teachers and doctors to call Child Protective Services. So Ebony's 100% right on. I don't think anybody thought that because, well, I'll just say it for everybody else. Do you think that Chris would listen to Katie? There you go, common sense. Boom. Do you think that if Katie said, Chris, you're out of line, do not hit my child. You hit my child, we are packing up and we are gone. I will not stand for physical violence against my son. Right? That's what you'd hope for. That's what me and you would do. So what about Chris saying that to Katie? Now, I suspect that Mr. Proudfoot might stumble upon this live. And when we get to this part where we're cheesy wheezy is saying, well, did anybody think that maybe Katie told Chris he wasn't allowed to hit Sebastian, and so it never happened again? Did anyone think of that? I would imagine Christopher Proudfoot laughing. Who thinks Chris would laugh if the notion of Katie telling him what to do? Who thinks that he would laugh? Because I can distinctly remember when the question was asked, did Sebastian ever get in between you and Katie when you were arguing to stop it? And he laughed like, no, he knew better. If he'd got between me and Katie, he'd still be picking himself up off the floor, right? We kind of already, in a vicarious sort of way, we can sort of project. We saw his unbelievable reaction to the notion that Sebastian would get in between Katie and Chris to stop an argument or a fight, and the way he laughed in a very sinister way. And we can kind of extrapolate that to, no, I don't think Katie had a lot of say-so in this house. In fact, there have been a couple of conversations that I've had here on YouTube where I wondered out loud, if you manage to get 7 CPS reports in 2 states, what are the chances that your wife is very busy trying to figure out how to keep you calm and happy, as opposed to your wife having her own opinions and ideas? If you think it's possible that Katie was very concerned and spent a lot of time making sure that Chris Proudfoot was calm and happy, put a 1. If you think that Katie has been allowed to express herself and have her own opinions against Chris, put a 2. This is going to be interesting to see the answers. And even though you may not normally do the whole 1s and 2s, let me see this one, because I want to know. There's a lot of people that think Katie is very strong-willed and that she may have even been the ringleader in some of this. See there? What did I tell you? The first numbers to come up is Katie was strong and the driver, not Chris was the one who was the driver of the abuse. Wow, that is, thank y'all. I mean, really, thank y'all for putting that out there. I appreciate it. She is completely detached, Kristen. You know what I'm thinking. You know. We are, look at this, y'all. We're about half and half, aren't we? Like that does not happen very often. Usually we're all really, really closely aligned. No, we're 50-50. That's amazing. She's number 5 wife. Why do you think so? There you go. Passion Flower coming in here, preaching truth. There you go. I think KP is the ringleader and maybe even manipulative to Chris. Wow. Interesting, Carrie. Maybe. Like, I might be able to make that case. I'm going to have to, you know what? I'm going to think about that today. She's number 5. Oh, I already read that one. Sorry. I think it was both 1 and 2. Yeah, it's like the perfect storm, right? In the bushes. It's like the perfect storm. It's like Lori, Daybell, and Chad. You're kind of crazy meeting. They're kind of crazy, and you end up on 6 o'clock news, right? Chris was rarely home. Those reports are more about her than him. The restaurant video proved that to me. She's in the restaurant video. She does seem to be either detached and unaware of Sebastian, but there is a small portion where her body language looks like she's sort of bullying, right? And he definitely when she's looking like, she's like, did you say that? Did you? Well, I told you, you do that, there's going to be consequences. That was kind of how her body was moving. He looked really uncomfortable when that was happening. Queen of Hearts, that is a really good comment. I don't think the 3-hour conversation with Katie telling CP what to do, I think it was all CP controlling things remotely. And Queen of Hearts, you know, for a long time, I had this introduction up that had like a nighttime ocean thing. And I had a clip of Chris, his voice, the audio. He says, okay, it's time to go to bed. Turn out the lights and go to bed. Y'all remember that? Something like that. I'll have to try to pull that back up. Yeah. Turn out the lights, put the dogs up, go to bed. I think that's how it was. Turn out the lights, go put the dogs up, go to bed. I thought, Queen of Hearts, I thought that was way more directive than what is normal for most people. Truthfully, so if Bill, my husband, if Bill said to me, turn out the lights, put the dogs up, go to bed, I'd probably go, are you all right? What's happening here? Now, what we do say is, okay, I'm going to bed. Are you ready to go to bed? Like, we will say that, and then he'll be like, no, I'm watching a football game. Or I'll be like, no, I'm watching a movie. Or, sure, let's go to bed. Or, I'm already in bed, and he comes and gets to bed. But it's not directive. It's just sort of like, hey, here's what I'm about to do. What are you about to do? Right? It's just a checking in kind of thing. I'm going to tell you something else too, Queen. This is a different thing, but it stays in my mind. What other case did we have where there was this long phone call and nobody could remember what they talked about in their multiple hour discussion? What case was that? Exactly, Holly. What grown man tells his wife to go to bed like that? It was an order. It was telling her, do step 1, do step 2, and do step 3. I mean, it was bizarre. Oops. What was the case where they had like a 4 or 5 hour phone call, and when the cop said, well, what were you guys talking about? The lady said, I don't know, just stuff. And nobody, I'm saying it, another Chris Watts, right? Chris Watts. And I don't know if I want to say her name. She's been a bit litigious. Chris Watts and his girlfriend. How's that? Chris Watts and Nicole. They had a very long phone call the night that Shanann got home and disappeared, right? And it multiple hours, just like this one with Katie and Chris. I mean, Katie and Chris. The cops never could get her to explain what it was that they were. There you go, Vicki. 111 minutes. There you go. 2-hour phone call. And the cops were like, what were you talking about? That's like an extremely long phone call. I don't know. And then they asked Chris Watts, just talking. That's it. And a lot of people were like, well, they were probably, sex talking, right? Now we have 2 cases. And in both of those cases, there's a disappearance that defies explanation. And we think that's an accident, or do we think that's a manipulation of potential evidence? Maybe it's manipulation of evidence. Maybe that's Christopher's way of saying, oh yeah, I was totally in Mississippi. I've got the phone call to prove it, babe. Read my comment. Where's Rosebud? Katie has moments of delusion of all that comes with responsibility of mothering. She confides to Chris, and he finds it inadequate. That gives her more attention, and Sebastian is the target. Wow. I wouldn't argue with that, Rosebud. I think there are multiple instances where I think that's probably accurate or could be accurate. Sure. I'm glad you put that up there though. It's good. Katie recently shared she takes her dogs to have spa days and get pup cups. That is spoiling dogs. Do we really think she put the dogs up that night, home alone? Well, Kim, didn't she say that the dog slept with her when Chris was not there? Here's another point. I'm so sorry, y'all. Hold on. I'm about to cough. Hold on. Sorry about that. I was in airports all day yesterday. All right. So I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to reread this. Katie recently shared that she takes her dogs to have spa days and to get pup cups. That is spoiling the dogs. Do we really think she put the dogs up that night home alone? Right, Kim? Okay, now let's extrapolate. Let's pull that out. Let's apply it in a broader way. Christopher Proudfoot was not in the home for more than 1 month. And there is... there seems to be credible evidence. No, not evidence. There seems to be a person in the know who let it slip that Chris Proudfoot was not allowed to be around Sebastian as a result of the CPS report from January. So there was another altercation in January, violent altercation in January. Chris gets a court order to leave the home, allegedly. He's gone for a month. And then Sebastian goes missing. So if Katie's words were true in the original interviews, where she says that when Chris is not home, the puppies sleep with her, right? So the puppies have been sleeping with her for a month while Chris is out of the home because he's not allowed to be there legally, right? So the puppies have been there for a month with her. What leg does this guy have to stand on to tell her to put the dogs up or to tell her when to go to bed? He hasn't even been living in the damn house. You see my point? And Kim's point? It's not likely. It's illogical. Use your own daily behavior, your own routines, the things that you get used to doing day to day. If you have a little dog or cat that loves to sleep with you, but your husband doesn't like that, and so when your husband's home, they don't get to sleep with you, right? But then your husband goes away to work or whatever, and then they sleep on the bed with you. If your husband's been gone off to work for a month and then he calls you on the telephone, is he really going to say, "Oh, put the dogs away"? Or do the dogs just have to go in the kennel when he's home? Like, why would he even say that if he hasn't been in the house for a month? I think this is another circumstantial type of, well, not circumstantial, but I definitely think it's a statement of intent that suggests that he wasn't out of the house for a month. That he was, in fact, coming to the house, even though it was against court order. And now that Sebastian has gone missing, Chris doesn't have any choice but to further that lie, because otherwise he's in contempt of court. Very, very curious the way that people reveal themselves. Hey, Clutch Them Pearls. How are you doing? Good to see you. So, yeah, I think the multiple hour phone call, consistent in every way with the phone call between Chris Watts and Nicole Kessinger. I think the idea that by Chris's own words, he had not been in that house for a month or more than a month. We had a January violent episode resulting in another CPS investigation that remains open today. But Chris is going to think that he has the authority to say to Katie, it's time to go to bed, turn the lights off, put the dogs up. What? That's spoken like a man who's been in the house, who says we're doing my way or the highway. That's our nightly routine. You're going to do it now. Or was that him coaching Katie what to do next in the plan? So going back to Cheesy Weezy's comment about has anyone considered that Katie, after the first time that Chris Proudfoot hit Sebastian with the belt, that Katie said, "No, you're not going to hit my child anymore," and so he stopped. There's a lot. Thank you for asking that important question, Cheesy Weezy. And my question would be to Queen Bee and Jay and Cluminati. Why don't you guys ask Katie that question with a camera rolling? Why don't you ask her, did you tell Chris Proudfoot not to hit your baby? Let the audio recording happen so that people can hear Katie saying, "I did. I told him he was not allowed to hit my child anymore." because that is a recording that is unlikely that you will ever get. I don't think that Katie had the authority within the home to tell Chris Proudfoot what to do. Did you hear that tone of voice when Nancy Grace asked, do you guys sleep in the same bed? Did you hear that tone of ownership? Yes, ma'am. That's my wife. There's two things in the world you don't mess with. You don't mess with my wife, and you don't mess with my dogs. Right? All right. Okay. Or the sentence. I don't know, Holly. I don't want to get personal. All right. I shouldn't have done the little song, Kim. Boom, 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 boom. All right. We are moving along before I get in trouble. All right. There we go. Now then, the next thing on the agenda, we're streamlining it today because I've got a little girl waiting for me. Got to go have some fun. All right, let me share this. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, let's listen to this conversation. These are the words of one SF Investigates. All right. Yep, you don't mess with my wife and you don't mess with my truck. Do we? All right. All right, here we go. Yeah, I know guys like Chris Proudfoot. I grew up around them. I know them. Now then, I may have one or two of them in my damn family that I'm not very proud to. Okay, here we go. So let's listen. This is Everyday with Jay, her channel. They are discussing the egregious behavior of Jay by having Julie up on the panel. Remember when Julie Skolnick went on Everyday with Jay, or AKA J is for Dresses, went up on her channel to talk about the fact that Julie had been included in the lawsuit and that she wanted out of it and such. And what was really an innocent, pretty interesting conversation, what ended up being all about SF Investigates acting like a little girly man. Boo hoo, SF Investigates. Don't talk about SF Investigates. Don't do that. I'm a good boy, I am. I've seen 2,500 million hours of videotape. I watched Riley go over the edge into the water. Okay, SF Investigates, you're so extra, and you are so out of there. All right? Now then, what were we lectured on by the Krama community that supports Granny and Jay and Queen Bee? What did all of the subscribers, they're all lecturing. SF is a professional. He's a professional. Don't talk about SF. SF Investigates, saves kids. Glory, hallelujah. SF Investigates, saves the children. He finds them. Nobody else can find them, but SF finds them. Okay. Y'all get my point. So we were all like, okay, but did you see Collie Rodney? Like, did you watch that case? Because SF was all up in the middle of that. Why don't you go over and talk to Ryan Upchurch? Ryan's got a great tale to tell about SF Investigates and his absolute lack of ethics, virtues, morality, et al. Anything that you can think of positive. SF Investigates is a curious fellow. How is it that he's running about the country and every case he takes is one that's in the news? How'd that happen? Huh? Look, I'm not a big believer in coincidences. And I absolutely don't believe in coincidences when it comes to murder or missing children. And I also don't understand how a man takes photographs of pretty unhappy looking children and gets paid a lot of money to do that, and then decides to chase down missing children around the country. And anytime he does get involved in a case, he seems to lie a lot. I mean, if I let my speculation run wild, I might be able to create a Hollywood blockbuster movie in which there is an organized crime syndicate and they're making an incredible amount of cash off of children. And they take one trusted dude and send him out in the world to disrupt any police investigations that may lead to them by way of a missing child. But that would be Hollywood. That would never be real life. You know what I mean? So you and I, we're watching this thing with SF Investigates, and he gets caught up with Christopher Proudfoot. Chris pays $15,000. I think it was actually $30,000. Based on time, but let's just go with what we know to be fact. $15,000 of Mama Boom Boom's money, and we're all going, okay, wait, here's this highly unscrupulous fellow, and now Christopher Proudfoot, who is so extra and over the top in emotional dysregulation, that he now befriends this unscrupulous fellow from other cases, gives him $15,000 of his mama's money, and they're friends. And they're telling all sorts of lies like, oh, the green hoodie person, that was an old dude. It was an old dude, and Katie was just letting that old dude get past her. He's walking between the cars because he's an old guy and he can't walk straight and he needs some help. And Katie is just an angel of mercy, happened to be at the right place at the right time, and she was helping that old guy. And don't you want people to help you when you're old? And Katie did a good thing by helping the green hoodie old dude. Remember all that? It wasn't true. It was actually a woman named Melissa Reichard, who died in November in a weird, curious manner, just like the Lori Vallow case. And that person was a woman, a middle-aged woman with red hair. Strange, right? So hold on a minute, SF Investigates. What is happening here? I feel like I am in like the Tim Burton version of The Wizard of Oz, like a nightmare land, okay? Where the flying monkeys are in charge. You're saying that Green Hoodie is an old man who can barely walk, and Katie makes way for him and helps him get past the cars and the curb, right? That is exactly what you said, SF Investigates. And then at night, Hong and Nick and others, they actually come with the receipts. They have photographs. They have screenshots of a video, a security video that belongs to the Texas Roadhouse, so they can't manipulate it. And they show us that is not an old man. Katie did not stop to help the old guy or to even just stand back out of his way as he stumbled along trying to get to his steak. It was a woman younger than me with red hair. And you could see her face so clearly that people figured out who she was. How crazy is that? If you don't know anything about Kylie Rodney's case or what happened with Ryan or any of those things, all you need to know is that SF Investigates went on camera, I'm talking about video, and lied his tush off. And Chris hired him. Chris said, that's the guy for me. What? Chris Proudfoot, what the hell? What are you thinking, Chris? What the hell are you thinking? You talk so big. Oh, I'm going to vet my people. I'm going to do some check-in with my people. Well, you didn't check very much. You want to talk to Ryan Upchurch? I'll put you in touch with Ryan. He'll tell you some crap that you won't believe. It's incredible. It is incredible that these people, thousands of the Krama people, don't talk about SF. He's a professional. Don't you say mean bad things about professional SF Investigates. You're a liar. You're a liar. No, I'm not. I'm going by past behavior of this man. He doesn't care lying to the entire world. He does not mind slandering people. Judging by what you can easily find on the internet. Not me. I'm not making this up. I didn't come across this information because I had a conversation with SF Investigates. I haven't asked for an investigation of him, the man. I'm just looking at publicly available information. And according to my attorneys, I'm safe having that conversation. He did, in fact, do these things. There is evidence everywhere. And Chris Proudfoot vetted him and said, this is my dude. This is my tribe. This man, SF Investigates, he's the one I want on my team. It's bizarre. But for all the Krama people that have gotten interested in the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers, for all of you guys, you look, people. Okay, here's a funny thing. This is a curious thing. So they went off the ledge like lemmings. Do y'all know what lemmings are? I'm not going to put a video clip up of it, but just Google it and watch the video. It's hilarious, but in a real sad, kind of sadistic way. If a lemming starts running and goes right off the cliff and falls to their death, 1 million lemmings behind them will go with them. They don't stop to think. They're just reacting by instinct, right? Don't be a lemming. Use your brain. This is SF Investigates. He is a professional PI because I said so. Okay. Okay, this our guy. If our YouTube creator says that they're legit and they're credible, that's who we want on our team. Yay. I'm going to fight. I'm ride or die for SF Investigates, right? You wouldn't believe the number of people even today that say, oh, no. Allegedly innocent, or AKA Jules of Thought. She is not a psychologist. She's not a professional. She is not. Okay, you can sit with that. It doesn't bother me, but it makes you look foolish every time you say it, right? But then the same creators will say, SF Investigates. He's a super duper poo poo scooper investigator of all time. Believe SF Investigates, right? Okay. Well, when Jay had Julie, like Thelma and Louise, in their convertible, going off a cliff, fearless, courageous, while they're up on panel having what was legit an interesting conversation. It was a good conversation. SF Investigates begins to melt down as if like he was afraid that somebody was about to come out with photographs of him with farm animals, right? Like he's freaking out. Jay, get her off your channel. How dare you? Right? Like it was that bad. And then we find out from Jay herself that not only is SF Investigates in her side chat screeching and screaming and yelling, there is a flurry of text messaging happening behind the scenes. And who is that involving? UA Crimson Tide, Roll Tide, and Christopher Proudfoot, which is so interesting from a psychological perspective. Why do you have the super sleuther, poo-poo scooper of all time, private investigator, SF Investigates, acting like a little girly man in the side chat, crying that Jay's just having a conversation with Julie about reality? Why are they now calling Christopher, you must stop her. Oh my God, Chris, stop her. She's out of control. Chris says, damn it. He gets on the phone. Jay, what are you doing? You can't bring the enemy up on panel. What are you doing? UA Crimson Tide, she's behind the scene. Oh, don't get mad at me. Why won't Jay let me up on panel? I got stuff I want to say. Oh, really? You had things you wanted to say, UA, or you were being directed to control the conversation. There were things that you did not want Jay's subscribers to hear from Julie. Why is that? I don't pretend to know what it was. All I do is just watch reality and try to give it some sort of meaning and logic. It just looks like to me that Jay went off script, that Jay deviated from the SF Investigates plan because she's got a mind of her own. And she wanted to find out what the hell was going on with Julie. And Julie came up on panel. It was serendipitous. It was a moment of serendipity and a little lagniappe thrown in, right? It was perfectly fine. It was actually great YouTube. But there was SF losing his mind. Christopher Proudfoot's on the phone with Jay screaming, stop what you're doing, stop. And UA Crimson Tide is sobbing and crying, let me up on stage. Jay won't let me up on stage. And Julie's just living her best life, just talking about what she wants to talk about, not hurting anybody. Yeah? Now then, here's the little treat. Here is a little morsel of delight that J is for Justice has put together for us. She is about to tell us what the statements were that SF Investigates made while this live was going on. Yeah? Listen closely. The guy is everything Ryan Upchurch said that he was. He's a scary dude. This guy is not okay.
I've been here since Mandy Bell mod days. Oh my God, Seymour, you have? Oof. That's some dirty times there. Here's his comments in the live. I would like to know how this woman sleeps at night, encouraging people to report a professional license for nothing, accusing parents with no proof, thinking she's entitled to surveillance evidence. But didn't Mob Crew kind of think he was entitled to surveillance evidence too? I think Julie Skolnick needs to stay in her lane. She is not, in all caps, an investigator.
Remember, these are SF Investigates statements. This is what he's saying in Jay's chat.
I don't think she claimed to be. She doesn't know how to determine what is or is not evidence, or know how investigations work. Julie, why do you think this investigation needs you? Why can't you be a helpful advocate like everyone else by disseminating Sebastian's flyer? We do not, all caps, need you pretending to be an investigator. So Julie doesn't want to be involved, but jumped in headfirst involving herself. Please make this make sense.
Listen to this.
You wanted attention, and you use this case as that vehicle. Now, hashtag fuck around and find out.
The words of SF Investigates on the day that Julie Skolnick went up on stage with JS for Justice to have a normal, regular conversation. Nothing that was crazy or dramatic, nothing. This is how SF Investigates was speaking in the chat.
So Julie doesn't want to be involved, but jumped in headfirst involving herself. Please make this make sense. You wanted attention, and you use this case as that vehicle. Now, hashtag fuck around and find out. Julie, you involved yourself. Let me assure you, there is much more coming your direction. You fucked around, and you are about to find out. That is a promise from me.
Wow. Threaten
Promise
much?
you fucked around. There is
Threaten
Julie,
much, SF?
you involved yourself. Let me assure you, there is much more coming your direction. You fucked around, and you are about to find out. That is a promise from me.
SF Investigates, you are a joke, and you are a bully every bit as Christopher Proudfoot. After listening to these comments, it is no wonder anymore why in the world Chris Proudfoot trusted you. That is an obscenity, SF Investigates. You going on this woman's channel in the side chat and you saying that you're going to hurt Julie Skolnick. Talk about suing. Julie, you want to sue someone? Why you want to waste your time on Brittany, who didn't even say anything negative against you, when you've got this asshole SF Investigates in the side chat threatening death on you?
So he was allowed to threaten her in my chat as well.
Wow.
So for any motherfucker who's going to sit there and say, oh, they coddled her. Fuck you. Fuck you, SF.
Okay.
You big
His
fucking
messages-
baby.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, Jay. For the first time historically ever, I agree with that statement. Okay. So there you go. There you go. That's the real SF Investigates. Yeah, Sammy, we don't need SF pretending to be an investigator either. 100%, Sammy. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So these are now the other thing, and I'm about out of time that I gave myself to do this live. So the other thing were the comments that were made in the side chat, right? Everybody's like, oh, poor SF. He must be really tired. Maybe SF is worried about something else. I think SF has some other things going on and he's acting in a way that's not his normal, real character. No, you guys finally got to see the SF Investigates that we have been telling you he is. We told you guys, but you guys were like, no, he's a professional. A professional what exactly? What exactly does he do that's professional? It's pretty incredible, actually. All right. So there we have it, folks. Oh, yeah, Sam. It's just silly. The whole thing's silly. Yeah, absolutely. He said crap like that all the time. Look at what he says with Layla S's mom. Yeah, no, Holly, those people that have been in the true crime community and not drama community, people that really care about these trials or investigations and such. SF Investigates, this is a character that has come out from under the rocks a long time ago, and normal people have watched him and gone, this isn't right. Like, what's wrong with him? Why did he do that? Why is he saying that? So, and there is someone who actually did an investigation into the guy. So there's that. And it wasn't good. And I'm not going to cover it on my channel because he has a litigious nature. So I don't want to deal with it. He is licensed in reciprocal states for $140 and a private investigations for dummies book review. Everyone can be an investigator in Tennessee. I don't know about that, but I do know like 4 private investigators. 2 of them actually had been FBI agents before they retired, and when they retired, they became PIs, right? No, SF Investigates is a joke. Nope, it's not real. He does have the license, but the actions that he takes, the cases that he gets involved in, they're always a missing kid, which makes me very nervous given his history. It's always a missing kid. And he seems to do things that confuse the situation, not clear up the situation, right? I've called him, I've said he's a fixer. And most of the time, I think it's safe to say that a fixer is usually like an attorney. I think SF Investigates is making his money by kind of like, how should I say this? Like investigating the police to see what kind of evidence they've come up with to inform the suspect of who's maybe suspected of hurting a kid or disappearing a kid. Licenses, but no skill. Well, see, I have trouble with that, Pale Rider, because so PIs are licensed by the state, exactly like doctors and psychologists are licensed by the state, or physical therapists, right? And the reason that you have licensing governed by the state is anyone who is providing services directly to the public, all right, where there's not going to be like a boss in between you and the people you're helping. the state wants to make sure that you can't have any like snake oil salesmen or charlatans. They want to make sure that if you advertise yourself as a plumber or an electrician, that you have had the adequate training and the adequate education according to best practices standards of the profession, and that you know what you're doing. And if you can prove all that, it's actually really difficult to get a license from the state for independent practice. I don't know, to be fair, I don't know what the requirements are for private investigators in Tennessee. I do not know that. But I know that, like with healthcare, doctors and psychologists, physical therapy, engineers is another one. Trying to prove to the state that you, number one, you have all the education that is required by a panel of experts in your field. So let's say, so in my case, psychologist. There's a panel of psychologists that serve multi-year, right? And they say, okay, any new psychologist has to prove they had these classes and they made this GPA, blah, blah, blah. And they had to have done an independent research project for this, blah, 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 blah. And they had to have worked underneath professional licensed psychologists for this many years, seeing this many patients, doing this type of interventions for this long. It's a hell of a ride to try to get a damn license, truly. So, you know, on the one hand, he does have a license in Tennessee. On the other hand, he's got some pretty uncomfortable entanglements historically. The contributions that he has made toward these missing kids cases have been really worrisome. So the point here, the point for this video, it's not so much that I want to hate on SF. I don't. The point is, how are we, the YouTube community, how are we making our decisions about who is credible and who we want to trust and who we want to believe in, right? I think we have to be I think we need to be a little more careful that we don't just blindly say to people, oh, I'm going to trust and believe in you because someone said you're XYZ. I think we ought to let people's behavior and their associations, I think we ought to let that stand. And way back at the beginning of this live, when we were listening to Cheesy Weezy, and she says, has anybody thought that Katie told Chris that he was not going to hit her baby? We came full circle around to who the hell did Chris Proudfoot pick to help find Sebastian? A man who threatens death on a lady who is simply on a panel having a fact-based, logical conversation. Go and listen to this live on Every Day with Jay. I think it was on Every Day with Jay. I don't think it was on JS for Justice. Go listen to it. And I tried to make sure you could see the title of it. Hold on. So the title is Nope, You Won't Blame This Mess on Me, Bitching and Laughing. And she comes up on panel. Oh, no. I got that wrong. It's not that video. Hold on. It's this one.
Outside with her bullhorn loud.
Okay. It's this video that Julie goes up on. The silly games the GT people play. By the way, GT stands for gifted and talented. So thank you, Jay, for calling Seth's team gifted and talented. Thank you for that. It's very kind of you. All right. So the name of the video is the silly games that people, the GT, the gifted and talented people play. And she comes up on panel right about 50 minutes, 48 minutes, 33 seconds. All right. Go listen to it. Now, there's a lot of cussing and stuff, but I mean, we're adults. Okay. Go listen to here's the point of me saying, go listen to the video. Listen to what Jay and Julie are talking about. There's nothing bad. It's not a bad conversation at all. It's not slanderous. It's not negative. Like I said, it's actually a worthwhile conversation. So when you go watch this and then you listen to the fact that SF Investigates is threatening physical violent harm against Julie, and at the same time that this is all happening, Christopher Proudfoot is on the phone with Jay, and UA Crimson Tide is crying because they won't let her up on panel. She is texting back and forth with SF Investigates and Christopher Proudfoot saying they won't let me up on the panel. I would go up there and help you, but I can't. They won't let me up. If you feel like you have been manipulated or this case has been manipulated, you would be 100% correct. SF Investigates and Christopher Proudfoot handpicked Queen Bee. I think Cluminati and them, I think they're real life friends, but Queen Bee, Everyday with Jay, and now that he tried with Julie, now they've got Terry Lynn. This is all on purpose. They're choosing people to manipulate subscribers, to manipulate the people that follow the case. Yep. I mean, there it is. So it's all out there for you to see. So go watch this, make a judgment for yourself. If you think that this conversation between Julie Skolnick and JS for Justice was a negative hit piece against Christopher Proudfoot or Katie or Sebastian, go watch it. You're going to be shocked that conversation was enough to twist SF Investigates off like a little 5-year-old girl crying because she got mud on her pretty new shoes. Go watch. I stand by it. We have to do more than just experience these conversations and relationships online. We have to learn from them. We have to be observant, and we have to get in our heads what in the world all this means. And I think when you have people, parents of a missing kid, this active to control an online narrative, know what I think? I think you got a shit show.
And I burnt that channel. Sinister grifters with a snake oil grin, voracious virtue signalers cashing in, false PIs, they're fixing the game, pointing fingers but they're all the same. Innocent creators, moms with a cause, digging through the chaos, exposing the flaws. We're hunting for clues, untwisting the lies. Who's driving this shit show straight to demise? Convertibles roaring, cliffs in sight, like Thelma and Louise on a forever ride. They sail into YouTube fame, the crash is in sight. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Or it'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust. Spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Spark that'll burn dust that'll burn their channels. What's in the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust.